Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our Global Schistosomiasis Alliance. I'm Johannes Waltz. I'm with the Alliance and with Merck, and it's a great pleasure to see so many of you here this evening, so many of you. We don't want to keep you inside for too long, but we don't want to miss, and we didn't want to miss this opportunity to have this captured audience and talk to you a little bit from this rather elevated position about the Global Schistosomiasis Alliance. And to this end, we have Lorenzo Savioli, who is the chair of the executive group of the Alliance. We have Alan Fenwick, who needs nobody needs an introduction here, in fact, so I don't need to give you any sort of details. Alan is the co-chair of our implementation working group. David Rollinson is the co-chair of our research working group. And we also asked two of our key stakeholders to say a few words about our future work together. And David Addis from SDH Coalition and Children Without Worms is one of these key stakeholders. And we want to make very sure that we, right from the beginning, work very closely with David and the group. And of course, Dirk Engels, the director of the NTD department, who needs no introduction either. So, without further ado, I hand over to Lorenzo.
The reason why we have the Alliance is this. The Alliance, you've seen the scorecard, there's a red for schisto, that's not good. And the reason why the Alliance is needed is to change that kind of condition. A few years back, the same situation was for the STH situation, for that constituency that is now in green, and it's going to be even greener than it is today. And the whole idea is to change the conditions of schisto to be the least of the preventive chemotherapy. We have seen the whole issue over there, and the reason why is very simple. Now, how do we want to do it? What is this Alliance going to do? First of all, it's going to focus on a pragmatic way. We don't want to duplicate anything that is already done. We want to strengthen what is done, and we want to fundamentally support the efforts of the World Health Organization and the alliance between the MOU signed between Merck and WHO to distribute what next year will be a staggering 250 million tablets. But beyond that, we want also to go towards the implementation of 75% coverage that was developed together with the STH constituency with a resolution of 2001 of WHO, and make sure that that target set by 2020 by WHO is going to be reached together by the STH and the Schisto Coalition. So that's the constituency. That's the way we want to do it. It's going to be not top-heavy. It's going to be a very simple alliance, an open alliance, in which people will work together. Now, there are two fundamental working groups, and I think Johannes has said it. One is co-led by Alan Fenwick, and another one by David Rollinson. I don't think David and Alan will explain what exactly this is all about. And again, with David Addis, we're going to work very closely with him, and we are already working close to make sure that all the work we are doing together is synergic and is not duplicating anything of the efforts already made by that constituency and our constituency together, overall under the umbrella of the preventive chemotherapy group. So that's the whole point.
As you all know, traffic lights have red at the top. Thank you. Better? Traffic lights have red at the top, then yellow, and then green. So I was very thrilled to see that schisto was at the top, because they're the only ones that are red. But then I read the legend at the bottom and found out they were actually at the bottom, even though we're at the top. And schisto needs more work than any of the other NTDs. As we all know, there are 200 million people infected in Africa, and currently we are treating about 30, 40, or even maximum 50 million people every year. So we've got to ramp it up. We've done that from nothing. And so we haven't actually failed, but we've still got a long way to go. We're very much behind the other diseases. And as Johannes and Lorenzo said, that's why we've got the Alliance. And my position as leader of the implementation group with Ashil Kabori from RTI is to make sure that our two groups actually ramp up because, as I've said many times, next year we're going to have 250 million tablets donated from Merck, plus the DFID donation, plus some drugs from World Vision and USAID, and yet those drugs are going to be twice as many as we've ever used in a year before. And so we've really got to ramp up what we do. In the short term, we've got to expand, and we've got to integrate with the other NTDs, and I want to get outside very quickly, so that's all I'm going to say. I am the leader of the implementation group, and I need as much help as I can get from all of you. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Alan. And I would just like to welcome you all. As a researcher here at the Natural History Museum, it's been a great pleasure to be here today to see all the activities with the NTDs. And I hope you all enjoyed the demonstrations that went on with the displays relating to the different diseases from people from the museum and also from the London Centre for Neglected Tropical Diseases, because that actually gave a very good impression of the kind of work that's been going on. I've been working with Jutta from the Merck Group, looking at what's possible with the research working group, and we've come really down to two main objectives. We really want to work alongside the implementation group and look at the operational research that's necessary to actually take us forward as we go down this, what I suspect will be quite a long elimination path. But also we want to look at new innovations, we want to look at new ideas that we can bring to the table to actually help the implementation story. There are lots of things that you will be thinking about, that we're thinking about. We need better diagnosis in low transmission settings. We need pediatric formulations. We need to know a little bit more about what's actually happening in terms of transmission. It's not all going to be about chemotherapy. We need to get back to transmission control. We need to start looking at snails. So this is all very, very important, and it's going to be a really good research platform for us to work with, working with organizations such as SCORE to actually take forward this kind of operational research. One of our first outputs is actually going to be a meeting at the NTD core meeting, which takes place prior to ASTMH. And what we hope to do there is really bring together people interested in the diagnosis of schistosomiasis to see where we're going, to see what the control program managers actually need in the field, and also to really understand where the technology is taking us and what new innovations we need and what development we need to make with those new techniques. So anybody's got any good ideas about research priorities for the research working group, let's come and talk about it. Thank you.
On behalf of my colleagues at the STH Coalition, I'm really pleased to stand here on the podium with the Global Schistosomiasis Alliance leadership. Want to pledge our support for this new alliance. I really like the analogy that Charles Mackenzie gave today about the NTDs being a family table. I think we're two of the youngest siblings at this table, and in fact, we're twins. We share common goals of supporting the WHO targets for 2020. We share common delivery platforms for drugs, and we also have a very invested interest in the water, sanitation, and hygiene sector. So we're very close twins. We will work very closely together. Mweli Malecela from Tanzania has urged us to work seamlessly with the countries, and we pledge to do that. So it's a great pleasure to be here today. Good luck. We look forward to working with you very closely.
Right. I wanted to talk briefly about what WHO expects from an alliance such as the Schisto Alliance. Disease-specific alliances have proven to be able to push an agenda forward. That has been clear from the other alliances. I've said repeatedly that a Schisto Alliance would be a good thing, to do mainly advocacy in favor of schistosomiasis and to get schistosomiasis out of the red in that scorecard. Schistosomiasis remains the Cinderella in the PC package. And that is mainly due to the fact that we don't have abundance of praziquantel as we have for the other diseases. So what I expect from the Alliance is not to duplicate what WHO is trying to do, neither to take over of what WHO is trying to do, but to help WHO in trying to finish its mandate. That means making available sufficient praziquantel. So I'll tell you what we're trying to do in WHO, and I'm focusing only on that access to praziquantel. First of all, not to allow praziquantel to expire on the shelves. That has happened in the past, and with the limited quantities we have, that is unacceptable, and that must at all cost be avoided. The second thing is, in coordination with other donors of praziquantel, make the best use of the praziquantel Merck WHO donation. As of next year onwards, there's going to be a substantial increase in the availability of praziquantel through that donation. The idea is not to use that to substitute other sources of praziquantel, but really try to scale up the coverage of people treated with schistosomiasis with that additional amount. I told you this afternoon that we've gone a bit more into depth and that we believe that can be done through existing delivery opportunities. That is why it is so important that there is a close link with the STH Alliance, because that scaling up and that absorption of the additional amount will go through current existing access to school-age children for other deworming drugs. Then WHO is also committed to find additional sources of praziquantel, free to the end user, but somebody will have to buy it. So we are looking actually for additional buying donors that will make the praziquantel free to the end user. Now here we need three conditions. We need qualified sources of praziquantel. And we've started collaboration with our Essentials Drug Department to pre-qualify a number of generic sources of praziquantel. Not too many, not too few. The market, or the, how would I say, the beneficial market is limited, so we must make sure there are several, but not too many, otherwise they won't be interested in supplying that market. The second thing we need to do is make sure that we don't kill the very timid generic market for praziquantel. And if we would substitute the existing sources of praziquantel with the available additional donation of Merck, that would do irreparable damage. The third thing is, once we have a reasonable amount of pre-qualified sources, we, WHO, will put our full weight in the scale to approach potential additional donors to make the amount of praziquantel comparable to the amount we have for the other diseases. So that is in the short to medium term. That will take approximately 2 to 3 years. So for 2 to 3 years, I would ask USA, DFID, and World Vision to continue their efforts to supply praziquantel. Hopefully, by that time, we will have other more sustainable buying donors of praziquantel, so that that money can then turn into support to implementation. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for bearing with us. Just at the end, I want to encourage you to look at our new website, which was launched only yesterday, as well as taking away the brochures which we put out there. And at the very end, let me stress, this is an open alliance. We have currently 12 key founding partners, but we invite all of you, almost all, to please join, and to, in any case, please join forces with us and make really the best, join our efforts to tackle this scourge of this disease together. Thank you so much for bearing with us, and enjoy the rest of the evening.